Catus Maximus here again, this time with a Dremel Model 260 moto tool. I believe this is the first Dremel. Actually, I don't think it's the first Dremel. I think it's the first of the compact handheld Dremels. Kind of hard to find the early history about Dremel. These are my favorite Dremels. They obviously have lots of advanced versions with electronic speed control and much higher power motors and 35,000 RPM. The new ones even have a LCD display readout for the speed settings. The issue with all the new Dremels is, people wanted more power, but they became much larger and much less convenient to use for detailed work. Obviously, when you're using cutoff wheels or doing actual grinding operations, you do need the extra power of the bigger Dremels. But many times I find they're cumbersome when you're trying to do real detailed work, doing some adjustments on electronics or jewelry or what have you. The nice thing about this compact Dremel versus, say, any number of moto tools with a flex shaft is the flex shaft, even though it's small, even on high-end professional jewelers' flex shaft grinders and drills, they're a little bit cumbersome because you have all that tension of the flex shaft. This electrical power cord, it's a vacuum cleaner cord, is incredibly flexible. Even after all the years, I think this thing is at least 30 years old or more. This is super duper flexible, just like a silicone hose or a piece of string. No flex drive shaft is ever going to come close to that. It's only a 0.5 amp motor, so this thing basically outputs about 50 watts of power. I'm not sure its RPM. I suspect it's somewhere in the 20,000 range. It only has a 3/32 collet, so there's the 1/8 inch bits, and then there are smaller shank bits. This little Dremel came with a series of tiny little collets. The one issue with this old Dremel is they did change the collet system. Collets used to be nicer, a little bit heavier solid steel, and then they went with some really some cheaper collets. Here are some of the cheaper collets. These are the collets that are used in the new Dremels. There's steel ones and aluminum ones. You can see they have like a little bevel in the back. That's what clamps it down. But they're pretty thin and lightweight, as you can see. The older collets were more heavy duty. As you can see, they're machined solid steel. And what's interesting is that they're all really tiny sizes. Including this collet, which it was this collet. Now you can see in there, there's like almost no circle. This collet, I believe, goes basically down to 0 or 10 thousandths. You can pretty much mount a needle in there. I've never seen that before. So the older collets, you can see, have a bigger taper. So the big deal about this is just that it's so small, it's really lightweight, it's actually pretty quiet, and you can just use it like a pen. Here's a newer Dremel. There's even newer ones, the gray ones, the 300 series, and etc. This is the most common. They sold the most of these Dremels. When you see a Dremel, it's usually going to be this style. It is Dremel. There's many companies who have knocked off this body style after the patent ran out. But the difference is obviously in size. If we put the chucks to each other, the Dremel 260 is much smaller by almost 2 inches. You can see that the body diameter is also quite a bit smaller. If we get that lined up. And so that's the other big difference. These do run super smooth. And they're pretty well built. It actually has an all-metal frame inside the plastic body. And it has this, which I haven't seen before on any other Dremels. It's like a little finger piece, so you can actually hold the tool right up here. It has a little cover over the... that's the lock button, the lock to spindle when you want to tighten and loosen this nut. And it actually has like a little arch and cover over it, so you don't accidentally hit that and cause damage to the tool while you're using it like a pen. And that's the amazing thing about it. So that's why I recommend finding one of these old little Dremels, is basically the fact that they're the easiest thing to use for any kind of real detailed work where you're basically using a tool like a pen or something like that, or even like a dental tool. They really are pretty amazing. As far as the shanks, the little Dremel here only takes the small 3/32 shanks. Here's a view. If we can get the camera to focus. There we go. We'll put these together. There's an 1/8" shank on the left, 1/8", 3/32, and you kind of know the difference because you can see how much smaller the size of the shaft is. So that's the other deal, is it doesn't take standard 1/8" bits. So that was my quick review of a Dremel Model 260, and if you ever see one of these, they're real distinctive, and I'd definitely pick it up. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Catus Maximus out.